I'm so glad you are here. This podcast offers a grateful twist on life's disruptions and hardest moments. I share powerful stories of women who face deep adversity, loss, illness, abuse, divorce, menopause, and more, and found resilience, strength, and transformation on the other side. Together, we'll explore how we found our way through, what supported our healing, and the moments that sparked new hope. These aren't just stories. They're lifelines for those still finding their way. You Are Here is a mission to uplift, connect, and remind women that they're never alone, even in their hardest chapters. Thanks for listening. I hope these stories speak to your heart and offer you strength for your journey. I'm so excited to introduce our guest today, Jacqueline Burbage. Jacqueline is a certified yoga therapist and embodiment guide using somatic practices with over 20 years of experience, helping people come home to their bodies, especially in times of transition, stress, or healing. Her work blends ancient yogic principles with modern nervous system science to support greater self-awareness, emotional regulation, and embodied resilience. Jacqueline leads retreats, group programs, and community events that invite people into sacred, comfortable spaces where they can feel deeply, move freely, and heal in connection with others. With a deep respect for the body's wisdom and a commitment to making the system of yoga and somatic practices accessible and real, she supports others in reclaiming their strength, confidence, and joy, especially women navigating the complexities of midlife, hormonal shifts, and the deep desire to live authentically. Her work reminds us that healing isn't linear and that we don't have to do it alone.
Jacqueline, I'm so glad you're here. How are you?
Can't complain. Lots of good things happening. How are you?
Oh, yeah. I feel like my feet don't stay still very long. Yeah, but we're not here to talk about that. Let's talk about you. You have a great story to tell and an important topic to talk about. So I think we should just jump in.
Well, I know that you're amplifying, women's voices and our stories and, how we came from wherever we came from to arrive to wherever we are in this moment, right? So I love that. And yeah, I was 28, so only 20 years ago. I found myself in a treatment facility and not for the first time. So what had happened was I was living in California and I'm from Florida originally. I grew up in New Jersey. So I was looking for myself. There's a very popular phrase you or your listeners might be familiar with, in search of the geographical cure. So it was unbeknownst to me that the phrase that John Kabat-Zinn has coined, I believe, if not before him, wherever you go, there you are, that had not landed yet. So when I was in the treatment facility for the second time, it was through intervention. It was through care and concern of my family, which today, 20 years later, super grateful for. And the truth of the matter is that I was using and abusing, alcohol to soothe my depression, my anxiety, the pain and suffering of what I now believe is very human and very common, and that I wasn't alone, although I felt very alone. So that's how where I am today started. If it wasn't for the years of learning and growing through removing the alcohol with the support that I received at that time, I don't know where I would be or if I would be here today, honestly. Yeah.
Wow. That's amazing. So you said it wasn't the first time you were in a facility.
Yeah.
So how many times did you go in and out?
Actually, I love that you asked that and the way you asked it, because I did not go in and out. I lived, the show The Twilight Zone?
Oh God, I used to love that show.
I feel like I could have lived a few episodes, being that I had been sober and my family not knowing, they did it out of love. And now, obviously, in hindsight and retrospect, I am so super uber grateful. But they really were concerned because I was that bad of my depression. I was that bad and dissociated, disconnected, just not connected to humans, to the world. I was very, I don't know if I could say bad words. I was very bitchy. And
You can say whatever words you want. It's my podcast, and I
perfect. I know.
And if they haven't figured that out by now.
Yeah, I was more than bitchy, and I was self-consumed. I say self-consumed because I feel like that's different than selfish for a lot of reasons. I was just absorbed in the victim and the woe is me, right? And honestly, like, life wasn't that bad. Like, it wasn't. And now what I know about the nervous system and about trauma, collective, generational, as well as, how we learn to be in this world, literally is from conception to age 7, 8, 9. Our mirror neurons, what we pick up from our family, our parents, our caregivers, our environment, teachers, society. So I know that now, but I didn't know that then. And so then I was in reaction. Then I have no tools. Alcohol was my tool, so alcohol was my tool. So I was still sober when they did another intervention. And, during that time, family, there's mental illness, or stories of mental disorders. I'm careful with my labeling, this day and age. I don't really like them, leaving them too much. But the rest of the world does. And also 20 years ago, 50 years ago, very much so. And it was never spoken of. So when I was suffering from depression and alcohol abuse, I was also misdiagnosed bipolar. So I had a lot of to the Twilight Zone episodes or series began. And I want to emphasize the misdiagnosis. I'm not labeled as, I do not take medication for. So when they sent me to a second treatment, I had still been sober. So that's why I wasn't in and out. And I had 8 years fully up until 12 years ago. I think I did the math right. Yep, 8 plus 12. Okay. 12 years ago, I did start consuming alcohol again. And I think that might be too long of a story, but I'll just say it was a proposition. I had a weak moment. Take responsibility, Jacqueline. You're 48 years old. Yes. I said yes. And what happened from then on, Tanya, has been one of the biggest gifts of my growth, my evolution, my transformation. I do not enjoy alcohol today. I do not abuse it. I try not to judge others who enjoy it. I can have a drink here and there. Sometimes I choose to. Most of the time I don't. But I was dependent on it, but only because I didn't have another solution.
Yeah, you were self-medicated.
100%. And I'm glad that we're doing this. And that's why I said yes to this conversation, to be completely transparent, which I don't know how to be otherwise. I did not, but I did not feel comfortable sharing my story and my truth publicly or to clients of mine who, are in recovery. I did not feel comfortable, even talking to people I knew from when I was in recovery in AA 12-step program, because I was afraid that I would inspire them, that they would be like, oh, if Jacqueline did it, I could. Girl, I'm like, check yourself. I ain't that powerful. And, but it's my story. And I rather it be inspiring for people to look within. And that's kind of why I do what I do. Yeah. You could peel it back a couple layers there, but
yeah. Well, I think it's a timely message because what I'm noticing is this movement of, alternatives, alternative wines that are non-alcoholic, right? Alternative beers that are non-alcoholic. And so there are people who are sober curious. There are people who are, they want to be sober for reasons other than abuse. They don't abuse it, but they don't like the way it feels, or they feel more present when they don't have any of that, and that's a priority for them. So I think, everybody's relationship to substance is a personal one. And some people can't just have
100%
one,
correct. Yeah.
right? And so that's a recognition, an important thing to speak to, right? Because Everybody's journey is
Correct.
the same. And everybody's substance is
Correct.
the same.
And this doesn't have to
and
always be drugs
so-
and alcohol, just FYI.
That's true,
Yeah.
right? It can be spending money. It can be sex,
Food.
It can be porn. It can be exercise. It can be food. So, I mean, it can be literally. If you can do it, you probably get addicted to it. But I think that it's an important conversation to have, and for people to feel a little more comfortable sharing and exploring and not being labeled. I think labels, I think they can be very complicated, but I also find sometimes there's a necessity for a label. I struggled with codependence, but I didn't know that I was codependent. I was in a verbally abusive relationship, and I got out of the house and went to a bookstore, and I just wanted to pick up a book to distract me. And I found myself in the self-help section. And next thing I know, I'm just grabbing book after book, like reading the back of it and like putting it in my hands. I have like a handful of books. And then I see one that says codependent no more. And I pulled it and I read the back and I put all of them back and I grabbed that. And in that moment, I thought, there's a name for it. There's something I can do about it. Right? So there is an importance for labels because sometimes you're like, it has a name. There's a path out of here. Right? And so, are you a drug addict or are you abusing drugs? Like the words can be tricky and sticky and hurtful.
For you, and I'm definitely not disagreeing, but what I am not a fan of is the labeling when we're put as in boxes or as a stereotype, right? That's my reference and then and your point of view. And I appreciate that very much so. But when they are or they have, like for now, I mean, in the midlife of women now, how popular perimenopause and menopause, the topic is, just as a side for a moment, and they have been diagnosed with anxiety, right, and depression. And then all of a sudden they're given pills. The idea now is that they're not being treated properly, right? But all of a sudden, just like children, they're getting drugs and pharmaceutical medicine that might not be the answer. Like there's a lot to look at. And so that's why like hurts my heart. And as like a yoga therapist and as a somatic practitioner, like my hope is that more and more people that hear this podcast and find themselves like wanting to understand themselves, that they don't put themselves in the box, that they don't attach themselves to, this is what's wrong with me. This is my excuse, because then that's the victim mentality also. Like that's what's happening in this world right now, at least from what I can see. And it's not serving us as a whole, like the collective. More support we need more support. Like, okay, this is your environment that you grew up in. It makes so much sense, Tanya. It makes so much sense. You know, I totally hear you, see you, and I get it. But like, we don't have to be labeled to get a prescription drug is all I'm trying to avoid.
Yeah, for sure. But yes, I agree with you. I try to stay as far away from victim mentality as I can. And, we have to own our participation in every scenario and the role we play. And so I'm big about that for sure. And also, I also find the word like telling women's stories. That's what I want to do. But at the same time, we are not our story. And we are not our stories, right? They explain how we came to be who we are, right? And they show us a map for maybe how we can change some things if we choose to. But yeah, it's not like this is who I am. Yeah. I'm a photographer, or I'm a wife, or I'm a mother, I'm a daughter. I'm like, I am all the things.
That's beautiful. Yeah. And the roles that we take on, right? Instead of using the word stories, I'll just say experience, right? Like my life experiences created for me, I have a capacity of compassion now to hold space for other women who suffer from depression, right? Who had, betrayal. My first marriage, ex-husband betrayed me, not with another person, but, with substances. And, for me to have that capacity to be resilient, right? And that's what I'm most proud of myself in my age now. And that's what I hope to inspire other women, no matter the age, is that we can grow, we can elevate, we can expand, we can transform. Because Tanya, I lived many years of hopelessness, helplessness, suicidal ideations, not being able to speak to how I was feeling, not being understood, always feeling different. And had I not made it through, had the interventions not happened, had the several years of not picking up a drink not happened, I was definitely going down, deep, 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 deep down. And if I didn't have that moment of clarity, and 8 years I meant by a moment, to find yoga, to find other spiritual practices, to find a higher power who I choose to call God, creator, universe, source, goddess, creatrix, all the things, because to me, it's an energetic field. It's a source that we all came from and are ourselves. And so, not to go on too many tangents, I think the important message about our stories is what can we learn from them? And I know a hard pill, the lack of a better term, the hard pill to swallow for a lot of unfortunate life circumstances is that it happened for us, not to us. And that's really hard for a lot of incidences. And I don't think I need to label what they are. But I fortunately had the stuff happen that I can now choose the perspective of they absolutely happened for me. But like you said, it's a choice, and it was my choice to see it as such.
I say that a lot too. And I'm just going to say this is a re-record. So I think we talked about it in the first one.
I think we did too.
Anyway, that's dead and gone. We won't talk about it anymore, except that I think I've even talked about it in other podcasts as well. To reframe, why is this happening to me? Which is something that we think when we're young, right? We think everything's happening to us, unless you're really enlightened at a very young age. And as we age and get wiser and, more experienced, I have reframed that too. This is happening for me. It may feel really icky and uncomfortable right now, but I don't understand the whole picture. It's not up to me. Right? Source. I love, would you say creatrix was the only one I had in the ears? But God, source, God, energy of the universe. Whatever you want to call it. I'm good with God these days. I used to resist it, but I'm I've just denied the anthropomorphization and the maleness and the whiteness of God. But other than that, God and I are good. Because I understand what that actually means.
Beautiful.
Whatever my relationship with God means to me. How that looks. Again, another thing we get to decide, right? And I think that's the beauty of getting older and having these conversations, learning that what we can't control, I love the serenity prayer. It's not just for people in AA. I think that's important for us to constantly remember, and that we do get to choose, and we have choices all the time, right? How we respond versus react. Our reactions to things and our choices along the matter. We can choose to stay stuck, and we can choose to get up and stir the pot and do one tiny thing every day, right?
I do agree with you. And because of the nervous system understanding, and I know you understand it as well, I think it would be remiss not to mention the fact that even though hypothetically, theoretically, we have we're humans, we should know better as we age and we become wiser and more mature. What I continue to remind my husband and my parents is that when we get in reaction, or when we are on autopilot, when we are literally saying the same thing, even though we know it's wrong or not nice, it is a dysregulated nervous system. It is coming from the emotional component capacity of our brain, the limbic system, the amygdala alarm, and we cannot access our prefrontal cortex. We cannot access our executive function to be able to respond versus react all the time. That's what I'm working towards on a daily basis, and I love different psychology theories and styles because of this. I'm a big fan now of IFS, internal family systems. I reference my parts Like just last night, and a conversation happened, and in my heart, I knew there was my little girl who just needed to get something I wasn't getting. And I was literally the observer. That's why I love yoga and the philosophy and the spiritual practices, really observing myself in reaction mode. But I was not online to respond in the way that I would have liked to. But then I wake up the next morning today, and I'm like, today's a new day. I chose not to still feel the same way, even if it felt really heavy last night, like really heavy. And I'm like, I don't want to dismiss that, you know? So I just wanted to add that because I think some people get caught up in, I don't have a choice. People do, I don't have a choice because my parents. I don't have a choice because of my job. I don't have a choice because of my kids. Oh my gosh, I hear it all the time. And my heart, and I'm like, I get that. You do. Like, broaden, zoom out, right?
Right.
Like, what else is possible? What can be different? It's like one little thing.
I know, one little thing. Sometimes like one little tweak. It's like, I just need some time to myself. And you think, okay, where can I find time for myself? Like, sometimes I think as humans, we overcomplicate things that are really
100%.
simple. Like, if you know exactly what you need, it's really not complicated. But we overcomplicate things. We get in our head. We talk ourselves out of it. We beat ourselves up. We do all this junk to ourselves. But I agree with you. I think the reptilian brain can take over for sure when that frontal cortex goes, bye-bye, checking out now. And I do want you to talk about the nervous system here. Yes, I want you to tell everybody what you do now because of where you come from and the journey you've taken that has led you to be a leader in helping people.
I love what I do.
With a lot of things, not just their nervous system, but so tell us what you do.
Thank you. Well, it didn't come easy. I had to figure things out a couple times. I come from a hospitality background, so that probably wouldn't have supported my sobriety at that time. So I found yoga, or as yogis like to say, yoga found me. And I became a certified yoga teacher in 2008. And then that pretty much just continued to catch my interest in how it was serving my mental state. I had still been on some pharmaceutical drugs at that time, which I have not been now for over 10 years. And I never was good at sports. So when I found the yoga mat and I start to move my body, now what I know is that it's all nervous system regulating, when done consistently, repetitively, and over a length of time. As clearly stated in the Yoga Sutras from 5,000 years ago, from the 8 limbs and the understanding of the scriptures, is that even then we were a little cuckoo. So even then, it was mostly men, but still it's a science and it's wise, and the fact that modern science is confirming it is why I do what I do. Because when I found the love of movement and breath and the philosophy, and then I saw I was more calm, I was honking less, I was less bitchy. We already addressed that part. So when all these changes started happening, I was like, okay, there's something to it. Fast forward to 2020, I learned about yoga therapy. And, that's just when somatic practices became popularized or more of a buzz, really the last 4 or 5 years. So what I am is I'm a yoga therapist with somatic practices. It's embodiment. As I practice, I preach. The idea is that I work with women who are disconnected, who are experiencing, post-traumatic stress. I would love them to experience post-traumatic growth. And that is becoming so in love with who you are. That is in becoming so connected to your body, so able to go deep inside and not like in a meditation, the monks on, the top of a mountain. It's day-to-day women with day-to-day lives, having day-to-day issues or challenges. And what I do is I support them in coming home to their body. And because this is home, So I lead retreats. I work one-on-one. I have an online program starting in October. I've been doing this for almost 5 years now. I absolutely can't see myself doing anything else. And I just love the women I work with and get to work with and see their transformation. Like, you know, whether it's a car accident or a divorce or career change or, you know, just reparenting themselves through movement, through breath. It's this dance and it's beautiful.
Look at that.
Yeah,
Dance.
it just
I
came.
loved that. That was beautiful.
Thank you.
It's interesting because I used to struggle with depression. And I had, before I laid a motorcycle down on my knee and had 2 knee surgeries, I had a really strong yoga practice. And I practiced for, I don't know, 10 years. And during that time period, my depressions, I had situational depression. I would dip in and out of it, but it was pretty regular visitor in my life. And it was crippling at times. And so the first couple of years I was introduced to it, I was living in Colorado. And I was driving to Denver to see the guy who had invented the style of yoga that I was practicing. It doesn't exist anymore, and I'm just going to leave it at that. And so we went to see him at a workshop and work with him. And as we were driving there, we were talking and getting to know each other better. And I had told her how I had struggled in the past with depression. And she goes, that makes so much sense. And I was like, what do you mean by that? She goes, at the end of every class, when I ask you if there's a pose or something that you'd like to do that we haven't done, you always ask for inversions. You ask for a back bend or a handstand. And she's like, that's because it stokes your fire. And so I think because I craved inversions and I did them all the time, I literally rewired my system of that course of time because I've never had depression like that since then. Like I had, when I lost my brother was an anxious depression. It made me feel nauseous all the time. So it wasn't the old school kind of depression I used to have. Just you talking about that, I have experienced the way it can, just yoga itself. And I know you can totally rewire yourself with nervous system work as well. So they're both put together and somatics, like all of it, it's really come at a better time for some of us, for sure. And I also want you to tell them where you are right now.
I will, but I just want to address what you just said. I love that. Practice yoga anymore? At least not that style.
I don't go to a class. I kind of practice. I basically did teacher's training, but I never intended to teach yoga. I just was so interested in my practice and learning the chants and learning the teachings. And so, yeah, I invested in the deep exploration. So I still do it for myself. I don't go to a class because I can't do flow because of my shoulders. And when I moved to Charleston, it was about the time my community broke up and I never found a home. And so I just...
Yeah, that's okay.
There's one down the street from where I live now and I should go check it out. But like, I don't like fat yoga. Like I'm pretty...
Same. And I'm really glad that you said all of that because I would hate to hang up this call without sharing that what I do, if I were to teach a public class or on my retreats, it's therapeutic and it's functional. So I no longer teach vinyasa flow. I can. That's what I did for many years. I'm certified in yin and restorative, which also are a blessing. But I focus more on like mobility and movement, which is for the vagus nerve, which is for the nervous system regulation. And also my teacher, who I adore currently, is a big proponent and supporter of the system. And what's happened in modern day in popularized yoga, hot yoga, right? And people are going and they might be getting exactly what they need, like you did with your inversions. And also they might not be getting the whole system of yoga. So what I really wanted to end with and offer is that when I work with clients, it's like, it's a way of life. It truly is a way of life. It's not just the asana, the poses, and asana being seat, right? The intention really is to find self, to find connection, inner self, God, higher self. And it comes from being in the body, not in the head, right? And then it's just a beautiful devotional practice, but it could look different for everyone. And that's why I want to make sure that you knew that you could still practice yoga. Even
when I do, I used to modify. I don't need
adjustments are good.
I agree. I think yoga also originally was just intended to be able to
correct.
So modern day asana is what ancient yoga looked like.
A whole other podcast.
I know that's another podcast. I'm probably
it's a great topic.
But and I think you can do it at any level. share whatever
Yeah.
you need. Vulnerability levels. I got that ultimate yoga lesson, learning how attached to my yoga practice I was.
That's beautiful.
So now a lot of it's off
Yeah.
the mat and
It's true.
more just like conducive to what.
Yeah, I love that. Same. It sounds like we're speaking the same language. And I'm coming to you today, everyone, from Costa Rica. Yeah.
like
My husband and
that.
I decided to leave Florida for a little while, and we're here exploring. We, as they say, jumped and the net will appear. So we have received part of the net, which is a temporary home, and feeling just very like supported and in the right place, just not all the dots and I's and T's and all of those phrases. They're not all figured out quite yet. And we're just going with the flow. But yeah, I'm looking to make our life here and lead a lot more retreats in Costa Rica.
So you guys had built some
In
place.
Ecuador. We have a house in Ecuador. We're looking to sell it. Yeah.
Ecuador. So you're just moving.
Yeah.
And so you're studying the same.
Yeah. We don't know yet, but we like to speak Spanish and we like the culture here and the beach and, you know, surf for him, life in nature for me. So, yeah.
Yeah.
You'll have to come visit.
Well, I'm
Yeah.
looking at some
Perfect.
things. Yeah, I was.
You are invited.
I think I just.
No, I just invited you at the same time. I was like, you're welcome to come anytime.
Anyway, thank you so much. I so enjoyed it.
Thank you, me too.
And thank you for agreeing to do this again. So I don't know.
No, this is perfect.
Technical thing. Anyway, but I appreciate it, and it was great to
Yeah,
see
you as well. Thank you. I look forward to connecting with more of you and seeing you again. Bye.